It's a great pleasure and an honor to be here at Drake this evening. And thanks for being here with this kind of nice weather outside. So it's, I know that it's kind of sacrifice, so we're trying to do this in a kind of good moods in order to use the time. But anyway, what we're going to try to do together this evening is to try to review a little bit this kind of concept of global leadership. And the truth is, I'm having a proposition for you and how we're going to review this. So the way that I'm going to try to propose to you, the way that we're going to review this is it's kind of 3 stages. In the first stage, we're going to review our own strategy in Principal International. We're going to use the strategy for Principal International as a kind of a study case, and we're going to flow around my presentation a little bit with certain pieces of our strategy in Principal International. The second thing that we're going to use here, we're going to use 10 different concepts that we're going to call observations. These observations are not, academic observations, are part of my background. It's all about my experience, working in the international arena, in the global arena in the last 15, 20 years. So you can take it or you cannot take it. I mean, there's nothing happened. It's just about 10 proposals to you, and this is all about my background. It's not part of my book. I mean, so you can take it or you cannot take it. The third issue that we're going to work with is what we're going to call the corollaries, which are a kind of complement about our observations, and then we're going to complement some of our content of my presentation with this corollaries. So going forward, it's very obvious that I'm working for Principal Financial Group, and just a few words about Principal Financial Group, because this is going to be good for us to really understand our international and global strategy in Principal Financial Group. So Principal Financial Group is a ION-based financial corporation traded in the stock exchange, opened by stock, Fortune 500. You can see, our stock traded as PFG, in the stock exchange. What kind of business we do in Principal Financial Group? Essentially 3 types of business: pensions, and asset management, third asset management, and our international business. So essentially, you could say that we have a kind of 3 divisions in Principal Financial Group. Our US-centric business, a kind of different division which is pretty much more global, which is our global asset management business, and our international business. And we're going to explore our international business and our strategy going forward. So going forward, this is my observation number 1. Our observation number 1 is to say it's good to have the right strategy. Always it's good to have the right strategy, but don't forget about execution. And that is something very, very important that we have to keep in mind. So many corporations and many institutions are spending too much time and a lot of efforts in order to have the perfect strategy at the end. But execution is much more important sometimes than having the perfect strategy. Let me give you just a kind of very simple example here. This is the relation between the right strategy and the right execution. So here, we have the right strategy from minus to plus, and here we have the execution. As you could see there, the execution is much more important than having the right strategy. But even if you have the perfect strategy and you have a very poor execution, you're going to have poor results. So at the end of the day, it's very important to keep this in mind, that the organizations and this kind of strategy, they have to pay a lot of attention about how you're going to execute your strategy. Let me give you an example, and you can enjoy this picture. And this is an example, and certainly I'm an engineer, so I'm using this kind of examples and so forth. But you can recognize, probably, you can recognize this car. This car is an amazing Porsche 911 2013. So it's an amazing car, it's an amazing device, but it's a bad idea. Ferdinand Porsche, many years ago, he decided to build a sport car. But he continued with something that he had at that moment, that it was the only and unique platform that he had at that moment. And that platform had the and a rear engine. I mean, I'm not trying to go in a kind of details, but if you're willing to start from scratch, building a sport car, the only thing that you're not going to think about is to put in that car a rear engine. So all the Porsches 911 in the world are having a rear engine. And the perfect location for an engine is a mid-engine. It's a mid-engine, not a rear engine. But what Porsche did, they overcome all these problems. The engineers in Porsche, they overcome all these problems for having a rear engine. So the steering wheel, suspension, chassis, you know, computer designing and so forth, they are coming up with an amazing execution. So execution is what is making Porsche extremely different than others, even though their original idea is not a good idea. So this is a kind of interesting concept, and this is a kind of example that people is using about how a very bad idea is becoming a real success. It's a real success because the entire organization is looking how they can overcome the problems of having a real, you know, engine in a sport car. So having said that, and going forward, this is our strategy. And we're going to use this as a kind of statement. I'm not willing to go into further details, but this is a strategy for Principal International. What we're doing in Principal International, we are trying to create a franchise, a real franchise like McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, but in pensions, long-term savings, and asset management. So out of US, that is what we're doing. So we're expanding our geographical reach in countries where you could see there emerging countries with fast-growing economies and with fast-growing middle class. That is our statement. Very simple, but now the story is going to be different because we have to execute this particular strategy. So how we're putting that particular strategy, why we're talking about emerging countries, fast-growing economies, fast-growing middle class, why we're paying attention about this, let's go with this a little bit. This is the observation number 2. The observation number 2 is very important, at least in my career and my experience. In general terms, people, they don't like to face what we call the brutal facts. As people, they don't like to face the brutal facts. Organizations, most of the time, they don't like to see and face what we call the brutal facts. And that is one of the basics for a very massive failure about future decisions. Let me go in an individual base, and then we're going to have some example for you. It's very clear that the most dangerous voluntary activity for human beings is smoking tobacco. 5 million human beings are dying every single year because they smoke tobacco. You don't have any other activity, voluntary activity, that can kill more than 5 million people a year. So, knowledge, awareness, decision. Normally, when you're willing to deny something, your knowledge is okay, awareness is so-so, and decisions later. It's exactly what happened with certain corporations. It's exactly what happened with Kodak. They were the king of the industry, and they're gone. That is exactly what happened with Sony Corporation. That is exactly what happened with many great companies that they were doing fantastic in their execution. But they couldn't see the brutal facts. They couldn't see exactly what was going on and how the world was changing. And they stayed there. They had the knowledge, some awareness, no decisions. Right? Some awareness, no decisions. So facing the brutal facts means knowledge, awareness, and decision. The 3 elements together. With that, let me go with some brutal facts here and why we're having our study. Here you have the evolution of the world population by segments. So in the very first tranche, you could see that in 1960, the world population was just 3 billion people. And then we have a kind of, we're putting this kind of segmentation by income. And in 1960, you could say that every single box is 1 billion, represent 1 billion people. So we have 3 billion people there. 2 billion were considered low-income people, and 1 billion were considered middle class. That is why they're using this kind of nomenclature with this sandals and this little car. 50 years later, we reached the 7 billion people mark. But it's an amazing evolution because right now in 2012, 4 billion, they can be considered low and middle income class. But 2 billion, you can consider 2 billion as a middle class, and you have another billion that was not there that we can consider middle emerging. So that is why you have the airplane, and you have the car, and you have the bicycle, and you have those sandals. But in the next 10 years, not in the next 50 years, in the next 10 years, this is the picture. We're going to have 8 billion people, but this is a picture. But we're going to have 5 billion people that we can consider middle and upper class in the world. It's a huge change. It's a huge change. Why is happening this? Essentially because the process and the economic development that is happening in the largest emerging countries in the world. The Chinas, the Indias, the Brazils, the Mexicos, the Southeast Asia and Latin America, and part of Europe, and mainly certainly Asia. So the world is changing, dramatically speaking, it's changing. And at the same time, the developed world is facing a huge crisis since 2008. So the developed world in Europe is not growing. US is growing so-so, you know that, but these other countries are growing at 7%, 8%, 5%, 6% per year. So the world is changing. Is this a secret? It is not a secret. Knowledge, awareness, decisions. The second fact is about the 10 largest economies by decade. How this map is going to be changed in the next whatever years. As you could see, the landscape about the 10 largest economies is changing in a very dramatic mode. You could see in the 90s, you can recognize all these countries, the largest economies, US, Japan, Germany, France, Italy, UK, Canada, Spain, and then you had Brazil and China going into this ranking. But as you could see, looking forward in 2030, this is the picture. Mostly, you have this chart is being dominated, is going to be dominated by emerging economies. The largest economies in the world are going to be those economies that we can consider today emerging countries. And we, Principal International, including US, we're in 6 out of 10 of these largest economies right now. And we entered these countries 10 years ago, 15 years ago. This is a kind of brutal fact. And also, we shut down certain countries. So it's not just going ahead and just going a kind of a flag planting mode. You have to make your decisions. So we went out of Europe in the year 2000. We had an operation in Spain. So sorry, Spain. It's not our fault. It's not our fault. So we divested Spain, and we shut down Spain. And we opened Brazil, and we went after China. So these are brutal facts. These are not secrets, but again, what I'm saying to you about the brutal facts and how you can deal with those. So these are our locations right now. This is Principal, and this is our current footprint. 10 countries outside of US, 3 countries in Latin America, Mexico, Brazil, and Chile, and 7 countries and 7 locations in Asia. So India, China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Singapore. So this is our footprint. Emerging markets with fast-growing economies, with fast-growing middle class. That's how we made our decision. The observation number 3. The observation number 3 is being my favorite formula all my life. So this is my secret that I'm sharing with you. I'm an engineer, and this is the only formula that I can remember. As you could see, and sorry about this for people that is not having this kind of background, but this is a very simple formula in order to determine the present value of a perpetuity going forward. So it's the flow, the initial flow, divided by the, the discount rate minus R, which is R is the growth long-term rate for F. So simple. So simple. It's a fraction. It's so simple. But the point here that you have to pay a lot of attention that this function is an exponential function in terms of PB in function of R is an exponential function. It's not linear. So think exponential means how I can maximize the present value and where I have to pay attention to. If I'm paying attention to F, which is the first flow, every effort that I can do with that one is linear. So if I multiply the F by 2, I'm going to multiply by 2 PV. But if I'm paying attention about R, which is growth, that particular effort is exponential. It is exponential. So I can have 2 times PB just working with R and staying with the same F. So this is pretty important. So that is why companies are paying a lot of attention about the long-term growth in their projections. Because the long-term growth in their projection is having exponential effects over the value of a business. So that is why growth is so important for everyone. And that is why I'm keeping that formula in my pocket all the time. What we're looking, why Principal Financial Group is going global, why Principal Financial Group is going international, why we're going to 10 different countries, India, China, Brazil, Mexico, whatever. We're flying back and forth and having, Latin guys in Des Moines and so forth, because we're looking for additional growth. More and better. More and better. That's the reason why. More, because we're going after emerging markets and fast-growing, economies and fast-growing middle class, where we can grow faster than our path that we have here in U.S. And better, because it's going to be much more diversified. It's going to be much more diversified, so the quality of that growth is going to be better. That's what we're looking. So simple. So maximizing the value of Principal International, therefore, we're paying attention, therefore we maximize the value of Principal Financial Group. So guess what? The board is asking, the shareholders are asking, the analysts are asking, they're asking about growth all the time. The only thing that you're keeping in your mind, what is keeping up, during the night, is from where I'm going to keep my path and my pace going forward. From where I'm going to get the future growth. And that is an eternal challenge in the, in your strategic process in order to think what is the best strategy in order to go forward. Observation number 4, we're talking about long-term, we're talking about strategy. This is what I'm saying, this is a super marathon. This is not a 100-meter race. You don't have to be a sprinter. This is a super marathon. In order to really create value, you have to pay attention that it's a super marathon. As I'm saying, and this marathon is not flat. It's very hilly, very hilly. So what I'm saying, you have to be mentally, you have to be strong, fit, and lean. Because strictly speaking, when you have to make decisions, normally you have to make decisions under pressure. Under pressure. You know, the right decision makers are the ones that can make good decisions under pressure. And that is very important to keep in mind, that you have to don't go into panic. Don't go into panic. Stay calm. You have to really understand. You have to face the brutal facts. Knowledge, awareness, decision. Knowledge, awareness, decision. So, what is the most important thing is in order to keep your mind clear and crystal clear, to exercise what we call the common sense. The common sense. And here you have this corollary, the third component. This is Oscar Wilde helping us in order to understand that the common sense is a very unique, stuff. So you have to look for, when you're building your management team, when you're looking for the right people, you have to look for people that is having common sense. Common sense is an amazing driver of good decisions. This is our observation number 5 in our strategy. The world is becoming global and everything is different outside but customer needs. And I'm going to stop a little bit here because our business is a little bit different than other businesses. We are in a business that we're providing financial services. It's an intangible. It's an intangible. And these are financial services. This is not an iPad. This is not a smartphone. This is not a car. This is not, this is not a TV set. These are financial services. And the financial services are having some complications that are having different set of rules in each country. They're having a different, legal frameworks. Different governments, they tend to structure their business differently, and so forth. Our pension business, asset management, long-term saving, they really depend about how the social security system in some given country was designed. Is it in a way that it was designed in US, or is it a different way that it was designed in China, or is it the way that it was designed in India? So we have to be able to really understand all these differences, cultural difference, language, markets, competitors, legal framework, and so forth, and then we have to customize a value proposition in each country. So this is what has driven our observation number 6 here. Our observation number 6 means we're using this concept that is very well known. We're putting a global strategy. We're going to keep everyone aligned under our umbrella because the stockholders are willing to know what we're doing outside, so we have to be disciplined. We have to be disciplined because our stockholders, when they're buying a PFG stocks, they're willing to know what we're doing in China. And they're not willing to have surprises. So we're keeping our franchise in order, we're keeping our discipline, but we have to customize a value proposition in each place, which is a very interesting exercise. And it's a very interesting and it's a very challenging exercise. But if you can build a company and a management team that they can do this, is part of the success that you're looking for. If you can customize your customer experience in China or in India or in Brazil or whatever, you can customize your value proposition. That is a part of the secret here in order to have some success in the global arena, at least for the financial services. Having said that, the observation number 7, this is my take. It's much better to know what and then who. You have a lot of writers that are saying it's very difficult to really know if it's who first and then what or who. So, but I had to make a decision. I really prefer to say what and then who. So that is an observation. And the first observation in this exercise is I'm saying, if we know what we have to do, the first thing that I'm telling you, don't be Atlas. Don't put the world on your shoulders. Do you remember the Atlas? Don't try to do that in the global arena, and don't try to do that. We, in the leadership, process, what we're learning and what we're teaching our people and what we're training them is to say, don't try to resolve every single problem. And don't be Atlas. Don't be Atlas. And the point is very important because that means at the end of the day that you have to have the right people in the right seat. And that is what we're looking for. So we're looking for people that is able in order to resolve the problems, but we're looking for that kind of, management team in each location, that they can do a team effort and that they can go ahead with a team effort in order to resolve their problems. And our leaders, we don't need Atlas as leaders. When we're facing that kind of people, we immediately know that they're going to have a limited scope. And if they have a limited scope, they put in danger our growth. Again, we're going back to the same point, which is growth. So here it's important to take in consideration that you can be seen as a professional that is putting in danger the future growth of your organization. You have to be able to unleash talent and to manage talent in your company. It is kind of risky? Yeah. In 35 years of period, I unleashed some couple of nuts guy, But it's a kind of risky situation, but you have to take the risk. You have to make decisions. But this is part of this observation, then first what and then who. So the search that you have to do across the board in order to look for the right people in the right seat in 10 different locations, you have to believe me, it's taking years and years. Years and years. I'm going to give you the first example. When you're going in your very first time in a brand new country and you're willing to hire the very first employee in that country, you have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing. So let me just give you an example. I'm having an interview. I'm having my curriculum, my CV here in US. I was born in US. I live in US. I went to Drake and so forth, blah, blah. So I'm giving my CV to my interviewer. He's also American. So he can read my CV and he can extract some information. I'm going to give you the same CV in India. You have no idea if that CV is even possible to be the truth or not. If that university, the National University in Bombay, what is that? And you can read certain codes, like body language, how he or she are speaking, moving, behaving. Is it good, bad? What kind of information I'm getting? So you're getting a lot of information, but you cannot decode that information. You cannot decode that information. So it's taking years to really find out the way that you can read people in different countries, because you don't have that kind of way to go. You can understand what you're looking and the information that you're getting. You're starting getting overwhelmed about information that you can decode. So this is a process, And this is very, very key to go ahead with a global team. So that is what we're paying a lot of attention, and this is the observation number 7, that a global team is needed in order to face and to endurance the challenge that we are having every day. So this is another corollary, which is coming from different kind of books and readings. In our case, it's much, much better to go after doers and givers. Probably you know these concepts. Doers and givers, rather than talkers and takers. So this is very important because our teamwork is very much needed, so we need givers and we need doers. And the truth is, having takers is not helping to us so much. And certainly talkers, they don't help so much. So that is a very interesting thing. But it's very interesting because when you are going in a brand new country, you're going to be impressed by talkers. You know, because you don't have any experience. So if you're a doer, it's very difficult to tell you that I'm a doer in a country that you don't know. You don't know. So, but a talker can impress to you more. So you have to be very careful with that. And normally, the global companies, they tend to hire normally talkers and takers rather than doers and givers. Observation number 8. This is very important for us. It is what we call our model. We're putting a team and people that work with you and instead of working for you. That is very important. I'm going to explain to you a little bit this concept about working with you instead of working for you. Today is 6:40 p.m. here in Des Moines, Iowa. It's almost about 7 a.m. in India. It's 14 hours different in Hong Kong. So the truth is, I have no idea what our people is doing right now in the other side of the world. In the other side of the world. So if we're putting the concept that they're working for us and, you know, for you, you have to control them. You have to have a strict control about what they're doing because they're working for you. They're taking orders. When someone is working for you, that someone is taking orders. And then, and so, and hence, execute. I'm not saying that is bad or good. I mean, we don't have any judgment. The only thing that we are trying to do here, we're trying to have people that is working with us. They're not taking orders. They are not afraid that I'm going to call India. I should call India probably, but they're not afraid that I'm going to call, you know, my general manager in India at 8:30 a.m. his morning to see if he's in his desk or not. So this is totally different. So when you start building this kind of group of people, I mean, the kind of culture is totally different. In the extreme, you have two types of companies going forward. Companies that are creating this kind of culture that you're working for them. So in their headquarters or regional headquarters, they're managing the system as Rome did many centuries ago. So they hire a myriad of centurions, and those centurions are flying around and are the ones that are giving you instructions. And they're collecting revenues, and they're collecting AUMs and profits. That is what the centurions were doing. That's one way to go. The other way to go is to have this kind of people that is working with you, and they're fully committed about what we're doing. So in essence, that is giving you the sense that we're having a flat organization. we're putting ahead a very important sense of accountability, and we're trying to look always for the right profile, and we have something that we say, you promise, you deliver. So this is not a free ride, you know? This is not a club. This is not a club. This is a company. So if we're having this kind of environment, you promise, you deliver, my friend. You know? It's a kind of friendly relationship, but it's a relationship which is different. So the kind of people that is working with us is a different people, and the truth is taking much more time and much more efforts to really find out the right kind of people with this kind of profile, because they have to be, you know, self-aware, they have to be very disciplined, they have to have a strong sense of entrepreneurship and so forth. What is the forbidden statement? And this is a kind of joke, so you have to know. We have a forbidden statement in Principal International. And the forbidden statement is, I will do my best. Let me try to explain to you this. When you're giving to someone, and when you're having a meeting, and you're getting a compromise, and you're saying, okay, we're going to do this, and the leader is leaving that meeting, and in the very last second, he's turning back and is telling to you, I'll do my best. That is exactly what you're not willing to know about it. Because he's telling you that failure is an option. When people is telling you, I will do my best, coach, you know, when you're going to face that game and you're saying, we will do our best. Failure is an option. Mentally speaking, you have to be strong enough, fit and lean. And you are going ahead, and the right statement is, I will get it done, sir. It's a joke, but at the end of the day, we can have people in this kind of environment without centurions doing their best. You know what I'm trying to say? Nothing bad. It's a kind of internal way to go, but I'm here in order to tell our experience. But it's very interesting. And you can see that people that are using this word, this phrase, or this statement very often is people that, for them, the difference in order to have a big failure and a big success is not so different. It's not so different. So we need people that the difference between a big failure and a big success is the difference between day and night. Black and white. Black and white. Because when someone is telling me I will do my best, he can tell me later, I told you so. You know. And we're here in order to win the game. We're here in order to face this challenge. We're willing to run our businesses outside and to run our franchise in a very successful mode. Are we making mistakes? A lot. Did we fail? Many times. But it's different when you're going ahead and you're mentally, you're strong, and your intention was always, I'm going to get done this thing. At the end of the day, it could be a failure. What do you have to do immediately? You have to learn about that. Lesson learned. How we can improve our operation, how we can improve our making decision process, which are the lessons that we have learned from this experience. But the only lesson that we're not going to learn in that way is that we didn't what it was needed in order to succeed. Corollary, and this is a very interesting book. It's a kind of $16 book. And it's a brand new one, 2012. This guy, David Novak, is the chairman and CEO of Jump, the largest franchise in the world, with Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and something else. And so operations 240 countries and millions of employees, but that is what he's saying in this book. So it's pretty interesting. You know, that's what he's saying in this book. You will never accomplish anything big if you try to do it alone. Observation number 9, so we're close to finish this because I said 10. This is another observation that is very important in the global arena, in the global leadership. Be a permanent learner and passionate. A learner and a passionate. You have to be a permanent learner. You have to define yourself as a learner all your entire life. All your entire life. And this is very important because you're going to live longer, and you have to really understand that you can learn all the time. The most difficult thing is to work with adults, because in some given moment you have adults that they think that this is the right time and the right timing to stop learning. And they stay with their own paradigms that you saw in the very first slide. They stay with their own filters. They can see the brutal facts, and they can evolve their mindset at the time that the world is evolving. So they can make right decisions. They can make the right decisions. So stay as a learner is something that is very important to keep you on track in your career life. It's very important. The second thing is be patient. And this is very important. I mean, if you're patient, I mean, it is all that you need in order to have fun, in order to be committed, in order to be engaged. My advice, if you don't feel passionate about the work that you're doing, take a look. Take a look. You have to look. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're passionate about it, I mean, there you have the seed of the real success, when you're really, really passionate about what you're doing, when you're having fun at work, when you think that your work is challenging you every single day. So this is our observation number 9. And observation number 10, this is a very practical one. Nothing better than to deliver great results for your own security. For your own security. And for your own paycheck if you want, but for your own security. You have to deliver. You have to be a doer. You have to be a giver. So you have to deliver what you promise. So it's a kind of interesting thing if you can deliver great results. And this is the way that we're going ahead. We're putting our strategy. We're trying to put this kind of global leadership, and then we're willing to try to deliver great results. Here, I'm going to put here in front of you some numbers in order to start wrapping up this presentation. This is Principal International. Our company, Principal Financial Group, went public in 2001. And in 2001, Principal International was just aspirational. We were ashamed to be disclosed in that way in front of streets. So this is the column for Principal International in 2001 when the company went public and we IPO Principal Financial Group. So this is where are our numbers. Total assets under management, so the total amount of assets that we were managing at that moment was $4 billion. Operating earnings, so profit and losses, $6 million. Clients, 3 million. We just represent the 1%, and they're kind enough because we were point something. So we just represent 1% of the total operating earnings of our corporation. So we were just aspirational. So we joined that challenge, journey, endurance at that time. And we said, okay, we're going to be more than 1%. We're going to be more than 6%. We're going to be a very important part of our corporation in 2001. At the end of 2012, we closed the year managing more than $70 billion in total AUM. Operating earnings close to $64 million. Sorry, $150 million. So we're a big contributor. We're right now, at that moment, we contribute 19% at the end of the 19% of the total operating earnings of Principal Financial Group. But, including some recent acquisition, this is how Principal International is looking right now. We already manage more than $100 billion. So we're coming from $4 billion here up to $100 billion in total AUMs. So we're a very respectable, company in the global arena. We're going to make more than $200 million in total operating earnings this year. And we have more than 10 million customers. And we're going to represent nothing less than 23% of the total operating earnings of our corporation this year. So Principal International represent 1/4 in terms of operating earnings of our corporation. But in our segment, probably in our segment, we're growing faster than other segments. So going back to our formula, our P ratio is probably better than other segments. Probably, I don't know. But the point is, this is a kind of shift in terms of our landscape in Principal International. And as I'm saying, you have to deliver great results, and we're very proud about this kind of results. It's been a kind of tough work, many years. It's a huge marathon of years and years and years in a kind of hilly, terrain with crisis, with the tequila crisis, with the debt crisis, with the crisis of '08, many crises, many changes, devaluations, depreciations, change in the interest rates, collapse in the stock markets, and so forth. But you have to be mentally strong all the time, and you have to look, and you have to read the brutal facts, knowledge, awareness, and decisions. And you have to keep your organization on track and your people on track. Don't deliver any particular message. So you promise, you deliver. And also we're having fun. So these are our doers. These are our givers. And this is our last, sales convention with the best of our people in Los Cabos, Mexico. So floating there, having fun. All these guys are the guys that are making the difference in Principal International. These are coming all around the world, and they're putting the best of the best in order to get the result that we're having. So I salute this group of people. These are the real strategic asset that we have. If I have to protect something in my company, we're going to protect this group of people. They're making the whole difference. So this is exactly what is our message. You are going to make the difference. And this is exactly what is making the difference. People is making the real difference in companies. So in terms of our presentation, I'm going to leave you with these guys floating, in front of the Mar de Cortés in Los Cabos. And I'm open for Q&A. We have just 5 minutes or so. And that's it. We're going to leave these guys, floating there for a minute. Any question? Go ahead.
You talk about how it's crucial for a business to look at future growth. Thinking about students, what are some of your recommendations of the areas where we can focus, thinking about our future growth as business professionals?
That's a good question. Again, you have a lot of information, and you can get a lot of information, and you can gather a lot of information about what's happening right now in the global arena, in the global world. That is a very important advantage that you have right now that it was not there 35 years ago. So it is very important to have your own assessment about which industries, which countries, which kind of regions are growing. Again, growth is what you have to pay attention to. Where you can see future growth, and in which industry you can see that those industries are going to evolve in a very positive way. So my kind of advice is you have to pay attention, not what is going on exactly today, is what is going to be the trends going forward. If you can read the trends going forward, that's going to be a very important competitive advantage at the moment that you are going to make a decision where you're going to work and in which, area you're willing to develop your professional skills. Sir.
After acquiring a huge, basically the Cadillac of pensions in LATAM, what areas are you targeting now for similar growth opportunities?
Okay, great question. Yeah, we acquired, as you're saying, that Cadillac of the pension. It's a pension company which are very fortunate to being able to acquire that company. One thing that is very important, I have to tell you a secret. I mean, we followed that target for more than 10 years. For more than 10 years. So we sometimes we have that kind of patience in order to follow our targets. In Latin America, we are right now the second largest pension provider by total AUMs. So strategically speaking, in terms of dominance, we're a dominant player in Latin America. So if I have to think about it, the challenge that we have in Latin America right now is to secure our positioning and to continue having a very important pace in terms of our organic growth and to secure that second position, if not to be the largest pension provider. Where we have some work to do is in Asia. We're not a dominant player in certain markets. We're growing very fast, but if we have to pay attention about possible M&As and other acquisitions, I could say that we're going to pay probably much more attention about the Asia region, Southeast Asia, in that way rather than Latin America. But again, opportunities are coming, not in the way that you're wishing for. So we will see, but that is our intention right now. Please.
As you're expanding into these emerging markets and growing middle class, are you experiencing any problems with teaching the customers the benefits of how they can use your services, especially if that's something new to that country? How are you overcoming those challenges?
Yeah. It is a real challenge because as you could see, the demographics are changing very quickly. So it's a very, very rapid process. And then the emerging middle class is facing, a brand new scenario that they can read very well. So the point is, yeah, we're facing that kind of problems that is much more difficult to explain sometimes to a customer, to a prospect, the benefit of the long-term saving, that they're going to live longer because the entire landscape about demographics is changing in a very, very dramatic mode, particularly in the middle class. It's not just here, but it is pretty interesting that in the emerging markets, the fertility rate in the emerging markets is lower than the fertility rate that you have in the middle class in US. Most of these countries, including Brazil, Chile, Mexico, going into the Southeast Asia, the brand new emerging middle class, their fertility rate is below 2. So the family structure is changing in a very dramatic mode. So they're not going to have the family and their kids that they're going to support when they're going to be older. So that is a very important thing. That is part of my slide when I said everything is different but needs. And the tricky thing here is that you have to be able to customize your value proposition market by market. And that's what we said, that we're pretty much more in line with a global strategy, local execution. Because we have learned that trying to package products from any place to other places, it is not working. It is not working. That is our take. That's our take. Did I give you an answer? Okay.
Do you see your competitors following you into these developing countries?
Sorry.
Also, what competition do you face?
The airplanes are sorry.
Your competitors
Yeah, yeah, okay, very good question, yeah. You know, good question, because yeah, we have competitors outside, and we have competitors that are following us very closely, and they're going into the same countries, because as I said to you, nothing is, we don't have any particular secret about the global trends. They can read what we're reading, and so we have a very strong competitor, but this is a brand new phenomenon. After the crisis of 2008, that we are suffering still a very huge crisis, financial crisis. U.S. is overcoming in some way that crisis, but Europe is right now in the middle of a huge crisis. So before 2008, the dominant player in the pension arena, in the asset management business, were mainly US-based companies and European-based companies. I'm going to give you some names like ING, AIG, Citigroup, BBVA from Spain, Santander, HSBC. But the truth is, they went into a very serious problem. So the good assets at the end of the day for those conglomerates were in these emerging markets. So as long as they need capital and they need to recapitalize mainly their banks and their insurance companies in Europe and here, they had to divest their operations. So they're essentially gone out of the scene. So ING is not longer a dominant player in the pension market. AIG is not longer there. Citigroup is not longer there. BBVA, Santander, and so forth. So what is interesting is that we are having a great opportunity in order to position ourselves and to use this real crisis and a real opportunity. So we're doing that. That's why we're being very active in terms of M&A activities since 2008. But the other thing that is happening, the regional and domestic financial conglomerates in Southeast Asia, Latin America, and other places of Asia are becoming as one of our strongest competitors. Because they were liquid, they learned the lesson in the past, and this crisis really, really, really is giving them a great opportunity. So we're facing some global competitors, but our toughest competitors, I should say that they're mostly domestic or regional competitors, which in my mind are much more dangerous sometimes. So we have to do it better. Carlos?
Well, let's give a warm round of applause for our speaker.